Hello readers, and welcome to day 5 in 3rd grade reading. I'm really excited to be with you here today. If you have noticed, I'm not at my own house today. I'm at the cabin. It's Saturday, so it's the weekend, so I come down to the cabin a lot. If you hear some silly noises in the background, it's probably my daughter or one of my family members. So thank you for being patient with me as we go through lesson 5 of our story. So last time we left off, let's look back. What was happening? Henry was teaching Tim to fly. That's right. And so he had his first flying lesson, and Tim got up into the air and he was super excited, but he didn't land so gracefully. So maybe that's what they're going to work on today. Okay, so let's start off. Everybody find lesson 5 in their Blue Lion book. We're going to start like we always do. We're going to go through the columns. All right, everybody find column 1. Word 1 is dangers. What word? Word 2 is receives. What word? Word 3 is barns. What word? Word 4 is circles. What word? Word 5 is lakes. What word? I'm noticing that everything in that column has something in common. What is it? That's right, they all end with an S. Okay, everybody find column 2. Each word of the word is underlined. We're going to read that part, and then we're going to read the whole word. Okay, word 1, what's the underlined part? Fool. What's the whole word? Foolish. Word 2, what's the underlined part? Be. What's the whole word? Below. Word 3, what's the underlined part? Day. What's the whole word? Daytime. Word 4, what's the underlined part? Un. What's the whole word? Unfrozen. Let's read these words the fast way. Here we go. Word 1, what word? Word 2, what word? Word 3, what word? Word 4, what word? Very good. Foolish, below. Daytime, unfrozen. Okay, let's see. I'm thinking of a word. It is a noun. It is in the first column. It is 1 syllable. So really there's only 2 that we could choose. And I like to go swimming in these. That's right. The secret word today is lakes. Perfect, because I'm at my cabin, which is on a lake. Okay, here we go. Everybody, find part B in the textbook. I'm going to read the information passage. And I will stop to ask a few questions, which I am assuming that you're answering at home. So make sure that you're doing that, okay? So here we go. Find part B in the textbook. Everybody touch the title. Everybody, what's the title? Facts about the equator. You've learned about the poles and the equator. Let's see how much you remember. How many poles are there? 2. What are they called? North Pole, South Pole. What do we call the line that goes around the fattest part of the earth? The equator, that's right. Where is the hottest part of the earth? The equator, very good. Which parts of the earth are the coldest? The poles, that's right. The heat that the earth receives come from the sun. I made an error. It says, the heat that the earth received comes from the sun. The equator is the hottest part of the earth because it receives more heat from the sun than any other place on the earth. I'm going to read that again because it's important. The equator is the hottest part of the earth because it receives more heat from the sun than any other place on the earth. The poles are the coldest places on the earth because they receive less heat from the sun than any other place on earth. So as the Earth's turning, the equator, or the fat part of the world, is always, almost always, sticking towards the sun, is facing the sun. So that means that it gets the most sun out of any other part of the Earth. Now, since the poles are so far away from the equator, they're getting the least amount of sun. Okay, so that's it for our information reading today. Equator, hottest part. Poles, coldest. Equator gets the most sun. Poles get the least. Okay, find part C in your textbook. Remember, I'm going to read it first, ask some questions, and then you at home are supposed to read it out loud after. Okay, so you read it to either a parent, a sibling, a pet, a stuffed animal, or read it to just yourself. Okay, let's get started. Find part C in your textbook. Everybody touched the title. Everybody wants the title. Tim practices flying. Here we go. The two geese spent most of the next 3 days flying. Tim needed the practice, and old Henry felt warmer when he was flying rather than swimming on that lake. There wasn't much room to swim anymore because most of the lake was frozen. Only some small circles near the middle were unfrozen. Scholars, what did they spend most of the 3 days doing? Flying. Why did Henry like practicing with Tim? Because it was warmer to fly than to be on the lake, that's right. How much of the lake was frozen by the end of that day? At the end of the third day? Most of it, right? There's just a few circles in the middle that were unfrozen. That must be really cold water. I don't blame old Henry for not wanting to swim as much. Let's keep reading. So Tim practiced and old Henry gave him directions. By the third day, Tim could land on land and in the water. He still had trouble taking off from the water, but he could do it. As the sun was setting on the third day, old Henry said, "Well, my boy, the lake will be completely frozen tomorrow, so tomorrow is the time for you to go south." Scholars, after they practiced for 3 days, what could Tim do well? He could land on land and in the water. What could he do but not do well? I'm going to have to look back at that because I don't remember. What did he not do well? Taking off from the water, that's right. Let's keep reading. Old Henry started to tell Tim how to get to Florida. The route was not simple. There were landing places about every 300 miles. Tim would have to land at each place and spend 1 or 2 nights. Then he would take off and go to the next landing place. Scholars, was the route to Florida simple? No. About how far apart were the landing places? 300 miles, that's right. How long would Tim plan to stay at each landing place? 1 or 2 nights, yep. Then what would he have to do? Fly to the next landing place. Let's keep reading. Old Henry started to tell Tim about each landing place, but Tim had trouble understanding the directions. Old Henry started out by saying, "You take off from this lake and fly south and east. By about the middle of the afternoon, you'll come to a field that is next to a pond. The field has 2 barns. One is red and," Tim said, "I don't know which way south is." "Of course you do," Henry said. "All geese know north from south." "But Tim said. What do you think Tim is going to say? "Yeah, but I don't know my north from south." Let's keep reading. "Do this," Henry said. "Do this for me. Take off, go high, and go in the direction that feels really good. Fly in that direction for a little while, and then come back here." Tim went up and circled around, and he started flying directly south. Soon he came back and landed next to Henry. Henry said, "You are flying south. All geese like that direction in the fall. In the spring, they like the opposite direction, north. Listen to that part again, scholars. I'm going to read it one more time. Tim went up and circled around, and then he started flying directly south. Soon he came back and landed next to Henry. Henry said, "You were flying south. All geese like that direction in the fall. In the spring, they like the opposite direction, north." So they like the south in the fall. They like the north in the spring. And that makes sense because every fall they head south. Every spring they head north. Let's keep reading. Then Henry said, "Let's talk some more about the flight to Florida. The first stop is that field with the 2 barns. The next morning you'll take off from that field, but you won't fly exactly south. You'll go a little to the east." Tim looked confused. He said, "I'm not sure if I can remember all this. I don't know how you can remember it." Old Henry said, "Oh, once you go to a landing spot, you'll remember it for the rest of your life. You'll know exactly how to get there and exactly what it looks like." Then old Henry tried again to tell Tim about the landing places. But by the time Henry had explained how to reach the 3rd one, he could see that Tim was just about ready to start crying. "I'm sorry," Tim said, "but I just can't keep all this straight. How many landing places are there between here and Florida?" Old Henry said 5, and Tim got a big tear in his eye. "I can't do it," he said. "I'll never remember how to get there." Old Henry said, "Well, we'll figure out some way to get you there." Why was Tim feeling sad? Because he was very confused. How many landing places were there? 5. It would be hard to remember them if someone told you about them, but you had never seen them. Henry said, "We'll figure out some way to get you there." What do you think Henry could do to make sure that Tim finds the landing places? Interesting idea. All right, scholars, so now let's turn to lesson 5 in our packet with the geese on it. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to find it. Pause your device if you need to. We're going to work on it together a little bit here. Okay, so let's read the rubric first. Part of the question is in my answer so that it makes sense to readers. All parts of the question are answered. You wrote 2 examples of how the character has shown virtue, a thoughtful text-to-self or text-to-text connection, capitalization, and punctuation. Okay, I know who I'm going to do. My character is going to be old Henry. And his virtue that I see him using a lot of is justice. Okay. I'm not going to tell you why I think that he is using justice, but that's just an example. Okay. Scholars, do you see how much room there is in each row? I'm expecting you to fill that almost up. So the way I'm going to start my answer for number 1 and 2 ways he has shown the virtue. Old Henry uses justice by. Then for my second one, I'm going to say another way. Henry uses justice is so once I finish my full answer, it should be all the way filled up on the second line. Okay. Then it says write about a time that you have shown the same virtue. So I'm going to say one time I used my justice was when I ... And then you're going to have to fill that one out as well. Okay. Once you finish your homework sheet, double check up on the rubric that you have everything that you need in your answers. Take a picture of your homework and submit it to our Reading Google Classroom. Awesome job today, scholars, and I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 6. Bye.